Legislation's been introduced to give Mankato a new counseling center for military veterans.
Aaron Stuvey has details of the project and what local veterans want to see.
Congressman Brad Finstad has introduced legislation that would give Mankato funding to build a veterans center. The center would operate through the Department of Veteran Affairs and would offer counseling to veterans, current service members, and their families. Finstad says that this is just one effort to lessen the burden to help veterans transition out of military service and back into local communities.
We need to make sure we're meeting people where they're at, and so this is an opportunity for us to do that. Blue Earth County is already overwhelmed with appointments for folks that want counseling and want help, transitioning out of the military. It makes perfectly good sense that we do that. Regionally in Mankato, we can serve southern Minnesota.
The center would serve as a regional hub for the services and would be the 4th vet center in the state of Minnesota, alongside Duluth, Anoka, and the Twin Cities. Back in Mankato, local veterans say that additional resources are needed within the community, especially one-on-one services that work with veterans personally.
Easier access to counseling services are always a good thing, because what do you do when you have a bad day at that Fortune 500 company? Who are you going to talk to without them looking at you like you're crazy? So I think a program like that would be really, really good if you could implement it.
The project is still early in the planning process, and it would be some time before the project is implemented in the city, should the legislation pass. Aaron Stuvey, KUIC News Now.